In our fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded by external distractions that pull us in every direction. The opinions of others, the never-ending flow of information through social media, the demands of work, family, and society, they all contribute to a whirlwind of noise that can drown out the voice within us. In this chaos, it becomes increasingly difficult to focus on ourselves, to truly understand who we are at our core. Yet, it is only by learning to tune out this noise and focusing inward that we can achieve true self-awareness and live a life of intention. Self-awareness is a powerful and transformative practice that allows us to reconnect with our authentic selves. It is about taking the time to step back from the world around us and reflect on our thoughts, emotions, actions, and motivations. Too often, we allow external forces, whether the approval of others or the pressure of societal norms, to define our sense of self. We begin to measure our worth based on comparison and external validation, losing sight of our true identity. Focusing on yourself means breaking free from these distractions and dedicating time to understand what truly matters to you. At the heart of self-awareness is the understanding of our own strengths and weaknesses. It requires us to look honestly at ourselves, acknowledging the areas where we excel as well as the areas where we struggle. This self-honesty is essential because it allows us to make conscious choices about how we navigate our lives. When we are aware of our strengths, we can lean into them, using them to fuel our passions and pursuits. On the other hand, when we recognize our weaknesses, we can approach them with humility and a willingness to improve. We no longer need to hide from our flaws or feel ashamed of them. Instead, we can view them as opportunities for growth and development. Understanding our values is another critical aspect of self-awareness. Our values are the guiding principles that shape our decisions, actions, and the way we interact with the world. When we are not in tune with our values, we can easily become lost or make decisions that don't align with our true selves. By taking the time to reflect on what we truly believe in, whether it's integrity, compassion, creativity, or something else, we can ensure that we are living in accordance with these beliefs. This alignment between our actions and our values brings a sense of fulfillment and peace as we no longer feel torn between what we are doing and what we believe in. Desires, too, are a crucial part of self-awareness. Often, we are so caught up in meeting the expectations of others that we neglect to ask ourselves what we truly want. We may follow a career path, pursue relationships, or adopt lifestyles that do not resonate with our inner desires. By taking time to explore what we truly want out of life, whether it's the freedom to travel, the desire to create, or the aspiration to make a difference, we can chart a path that brings us joy and fulfillment. Focusing on ourselves means being brave enough to confront our deepest desires and honor them, even if they differ from what others expect or think. By cultivating self-awareness, we begin to live with intention. We stop drifting through life based on external influences, and instead we take control of our choices. We live consciously, with purpose, and in alignment with our true selves. This alignment brings a sense of clarity and peace as we no longer feel conflicted or unsure of the direction we are heading. Instead of reacting to every external pressure or desire, we act based on a deeper understanding of who we are and what we want. Self-awareness empowers us to make better decisions, set meaningful goals, and build authentic relationships. When we know who we are able to communicate our needs and desires clearly to others. We can pursue the things that truly matter to us and let go of the things that don't serve our purpose. This creates a life that feels more genuine, one in which we are truly aligned with ourselves and the world around us. In conclusion, focusing on yourself and becoming self-aware is not a selfish act, but rather an essential step toward living a life of meaning and fulfillment. It allows us to understand our strengths, weaknesses, values, and desires, and helps us align our actions with our true purpose. In a world filled with distractions, taking the time to turn inward is a powerful act of self-respect. When we do so, we unlock the potential to live intentionally, guided by our deepest truths. And in today's world, silence seems to be a rare commodity. Everywhere we go, there is noise. Whether it's the hum of technology, the constant flow of information, or the incessant voices of people and media demanding our attention. This noise is overwhelming, and it often clouds our minds and makes it difficult to think clearly. But within this noise, silence is not only a gift, it is an essential tool for self-discovery, clarity, and wisdom. In choosing to embrace silence, we create the space necessary for reflection, discernment, and personal growth. When we decide to step away from the constant chatter of life, we give ourselves the opportunity to listen to our own thoughts, to hear our inner voice, and to connect with the wisdom that resides deep within us. Silence is a powerful tool because it allows us to cut through the noise of external influences and focus on our own inner landscape. It is in these moments of quiet that we can begin to hear our thoughts more clearly, untangling the distractions that have previously drowned them out. In silence, we find the space to ask ourselves the important questions that we often overlook in the rush of our daily routines. The practice of silence is not just about the absence of sound, but about creating a mental stillness that allows us to process and reflect. We live in a world where we are constantly reacting to external stimuli, from the notifications on our phones to the conversations we have with others. We are perpetually engaged in a back and forth exchange of thoughts and emotion. However, without silence, we risk living reactively, constantly reacting to the noise around us, rather than responding thoughtfully to what truly matters. In the absence of silence, we may find ourselves overwhelmed, confused, or stuck in cycles of anxiety and stress. When we choose silence, we break free from this cycle. By intentionally creating moments of stillness, we open ourselves up to a deeper level of understanding. These moments allow us to slow down and listen, not only to our own thoughts, but to our intuition as well. Intuition is that quiet, often subtle knowing that guides us toward the right path, even when logic or reason might suggest otherwise. In silence, we create the conditions for our intuition to speak to us, unobstructed by the clamor of outside opinions or the noise of daily life. This clarity that comes from silence is invaluable when it comes to decision making. Too often we are forced to make decisions in the heat of the moment, driven by impulsive thoughts or emotions. In these moments, our decisions can be clouded by fear, doubt, or outside pressure, and we may regret the choices we make. Silence offers an antidote to this impulsiveness. When we take the time to step back, be still, and reflect, we allow ourselves to make decisions with greater clarity, peace, and confidence. Rather than being swept away by the tide of external forces, we are able to ground ourselves in our own truth, ensuring that our choices align with our values, desires, and long-term goals. In silence, we are also able to cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace. Life can be chaotic and unpredictable, but silence provides a refuge, a place where we can regain our composure and find a sense of balance amidst the turmoil. In these moments of quiet, we become more centered and grounded, less swayed by the fluctuations of the outside world. This sense of inner peace, nurtured by silence, becomes a steadying force that guides us through life's challenges with grace and resilience. The clarity that silence brings extends beyond just the immediate moment of stillness. It has a lasting effect on our ability to navigate life with intention. When we are attuned to the wisdom within, we make choices that reflect our true selves, rather than being swayed by temporary distractions or the influence of others. The more we practice silence, the more we train ourselves to listen to our own thoughts, our inner voice, and the guidance that emerges from within. In a world that is constantly asking us to do more, be more, and engage more, silence offers a much-needed reprieve. It is in silence that we can truly hear ourselves, gain clarity, and make decisions that lead to a more peaceful and purposeful life. Silence is not a void, but a space rich with potential, a space in which we can reflect, discern, and reconnect with what truly matters. By embracing silence, we can hear the whispers of wisdom that might otherwise go unheard, and navigate life with a sense of clarity and calm that is both rare and precious. In a world that often values noise and external recognition, we can easily forget that growth is not always loud or dramatic. Personal growth, true and lasting transformation, often happens in the stillness, in the moments when we are alone with our thoughts, our challenges, and our efforts. In these quiet moments, away from the distractions and pressures of the world, we are able to dig deep, reflect, and evolve in ways that are not always visible to others, but are incredibly significant to our own development. Growth is often seen as something that must be outwardly visible, marked by grand gestures, achievements, or accolades. Society tends to celebrate those who are constantly in motion, those who are striving for external success or recognition. We see it in the hustle culture, in the social media posts showcasing accomplishments, and in the constant push to do more, be more, and prove ourselves. However, the most profound growth does not always take place in the spotlight. It happens in the quiet moments of solitude and reflection, when we are free from the noise and expectations of the outside world. When we are alone with our thoughts, we are given the opportunity to look inward, to confront our fears, doubts, and insecurities, and to examine our beliefs, values, and desires. It is in these moments of introspection that we begin to see the areas in our lives that need change and where we have the capacity for growth. This internal work requires patience and self-compassion, as it is not always easy to face our weaknesses or acknowledge the areas where we have room to grow. But it is through this process of self-examination and quiet reflection that we begin to transform ourselves from the inside out. In a world full of distractions, choosing silence becomes an act of courage, It is easy to fill our lives with noise, whether through social media, work, or the constant demands of others, because silence can sometimes feel uncomfortable or confronting. Yet it is in the space of quiet that we allow ourselves the opportunity to hear our own thoughts clearly. This is where true growth begins. When we remove the distractions and give ourselves permission to be still, we create the space for deep learning and personal development. In the absence of external noise, we are able to listen to our inner voice, reflect on our experiences, and process the emotions and challenges that may have been holding us back. Silence is not something that comes naturally to most of us. In a world that celebrates constant communication and the rapid exchange of words, remaining silent often feels unnatural or even uncomfortable. We are taught from an early age to speak up, to share our thoughts, and to voice our opinions. However, silence is a discipline, one that requires practice, patience, and self-control. It is easy to react, to speak out of turn, or to fill any silence with words. But it takes wisdom and maturity to understand that silence is a powerful tool, a tool that can protect our inner peace, guide our responses, and bring clarity to our thoughts. In everyday life, we are often faced with situations that trigger an immediate emotional response. Whether it's an argument, a confrontation, or a moment of frustration, our natural instinct may be to react, to speak, to defend, or to assert ourselves. But the discipline of silence teaches us to resist that impulse. It asks us to pause, to breathe, and to take a moment before we respond. This brief moment of stillness creates space for us to process our thoughts and emotions, allowing us to respond with intention rather than out of impulsive reaction. Remaining silent in moments of tension does not mean we are weak or passive. Rather, it shows strength and control. When we are silent, we take ownership of our emotions and our thoughts. We stop ourselves from reacting rashly, which can often lead to regret or unnecessary conflict. Silence gives us the power to choose our words carefully, to decide what is truly worth saying, and to ensure that our responses are grounded in wisdom, not in haste or anger. Furthermore, silence is not about shutting others out or withdrawing from the world. It is not an avoidance tactic or a form of isolation. Instead, silence is about guarding the peace within ourselves. It is a way of creating space for reflection, allowing us to discern whether what we want to say is truly important or whether it is simply a reaction to the moment. It is about taking a step back and recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is remain silent and listen, both to others and to ourselves. Listening is an essential part of the discipline of silence. In a world where we are constantly talking, texting, and sharing, true listening is often neglected. Yet, when we practice silence, we create the space to listen more deeply, not only to others, but to the still, quiet voice within us. In silence, we become more attuned to the emotions, needs, and intentions of those around us. We can hear their words with greater clarity, and we can respond with empathy and understanding, rather than jumping to conclusions or reacting defensively. The ability to listen, truly listen, requires a deep sense of silence and awareness. It is through listening that we build stronger, more meaningful connections with others. Another crucial aspect of the discipline of silence is the way it allows us to respond with intention rather than simply reacting. When we are silent, we create a space in which we can reflect on what is happening around us and within us. We are no longer driven by the immediate emotions that may cloud our judgment. Instead, we have the time to reflect on our values, our goals, and the best course of action. This reflective pause allows us to make more thoughtful, measured decisions, ensuring that our actions align with our true selves. It's important to note that silence doesn't mean we never speak. It doesn't mean we suppress our thoughts or feelings. Silence is not about avoiding communication, but rather about choosing when and how to communicate in a way that is intentional and constructive. The discipline of silence helps us to discern when it is appropriate to speak and when it is more powerful to remain quiet. It is about cultivating the wisdom to know that not every situation requires a response, and sometimes the most powerful action is to remain still and present. As we grow in our ability to practice silence, we develop a greater sense of inner peace. The noise of the world, the constant demands for our attention, the pressure to engage and react, all start to lose their grip on us. Silence becomes a refuge, a place where we can reconnect with ourselves and find clarity in the midst of chaos. Through silence, we cultivate patience, self-control, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. In conclusion, silence is a discipline that requires practice and conscious effort. It is not about avoiding confrontation or retreating from the world, but about creating space for reflection, listening, and responding with intention. By embracing the discipline of silence, we gain the wisdom to act thoughtfully, the peace to remain centered, and the clarity to navigate life with a sense of purpose. In a world that is often loud and chaotic, silence is not a weakness, it is a strength. It is the foundation upon which true growth, connection, and understanding are built. In a world that often values loud voices and constant action, silence can sometimes be misunderstood. Many people equate silence with passivity, weakness, or indifference. The notion that silence is a sign of surrender or cowardice is pervasive, especially when contrasted with the image of someone who constantly speaks out or takes a stand in every situation. However, silence, when embraced with purpose, can be a powerful strength. In silence, we do not react impulsively to every challenge, nor do we feel compelled to respond to every disagreement or conflict. Instead, silence is an active choice, a choice to rise above the noise, maintain our dignity, and protect our peace. One of the most profound aspects of silence is the power it grants us to rise above conflict and controversy. In an era where opinions are freely shared and conflicts are often escalated by constant verbal exchanges, silence offers a space to pause and reflect rather than engage in every heated debate or confrontation. People who choose silence in moments of tension demonstrate the strength to avoid being drawn into petty squabbles or unnecessary drama. They understand that not every situation requires their input, and that some conflicts are better left unaddressed. Remaining silent in moments of conflict is not about avoidance or passivity. It is about making a conscious decision to hold one's peace. It takes immense strength to resist the impulse to defend oneself, to argue, or to retaliate when provoked. Silence in these moments can be an indication of self-control, emotional intelligence, and wisdom. Instead of reacting impulsively, we give ourselves the space to assess the situation, to choose our words carefully, or even to recognize that no words are necessary at all. In this way, silence becomes a shield, protecting us from unnecessary drama and helping us maintain our composure. Choosing silence can also be a form of maintaining our dignity. In many instances, engaging in every argument or defending ourselves in every situation may lead to a loss of respect, both for others and ourselves. There are times when silence becomes a sign of strength because it demonstrates that we are not willing to compromise our dignity by lowering ourselves to engage in trivial disputes. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, we maintain a quiet strength that speaks volumes. Silence, in this sense, becomes a boundary, ensuring that we do not waste our energy on matters that do not align with our values or our sense of self-respect. Silence is also deeply connected to the idea of wise restraint. The ability to hold one's tongue and not speak out of turn is a mark of maturity. It requires discernment to know when to speak and when to remain silent. In situations where speaking might lead to further harm, escalate tension, or cause regret, silence is the wise choice. Silence is not a sign of weakness, but rather a demonstration of careful judgment. By choosing not to speak in certain situations, we avoid causing unnecessary harm with words, and we allow space for others to reflect or for the situation to calm down. It is in these moments that silence shows its true power. By offering a way to navigate through life without adding fuel to the fire, silence doesn't mean indifference. On the contrary, it is often born from a place of deep understanding. When we choose silence, we are not saying that we don't care or that we are ignoring the issue at hand. Instead, we are acknowledging that we care enough to choose the right moment to speak, knowing that our words will be more impactful when they are chosen thoughtfully rather than spoken impulsively. Silence in this way is not about turning a blind eye. It is about understanding the significance of words and recognizing that sometimes the best way to show care or concern is through our restraint. Another strength of silence lies in the ability it provides to protect our inner peace. In a world filled with constant noise, distractions, and demands on our time, silence becomes an oasis of calm. By remaining silent in moments of chaos or confrontation, we create a safe space for ourselves where we can maintain our peace of mind and avoid being consumed by the turmoil of the world around us. This quiet strength allows us to stay grounded in the face of adversity, keeping our thoughts clear and our emotions steady. In conclusion, silence is a powerful form of strength. It is not a sign of weakness or indifference, but a demonstration of wisdom, self-control, and emotional intelligence. By choosing silence, we rise above the noise, protect our peace, and preserve our dignity. Silence allows us to engage in the world with a clear mind and intentional presence, knowing when to speak and when to remain still. It is in silence that we discover a quiet power, a power that cannot be diminished by the noise around us. And in that silence, we find the strength to navigate life with grace, purpose, and confidence. In a world that relentlessly demands our attention and energy, it has become more important than ever to protect the peace within. The constant flow of information, the pressure to perform, the expectations of others. These external forces can easily overwhelm us, leading to burnout, confusion, and a disconnection from our true self. In the midst of this noise, it's crucial to carve out moments of stillness and solitude, to create a sanctuary where we can reconnect with our hearts and recharge our spirits. Focusing on yourself isn't a selfish act. It's a necessary step toward maintaining balance and nurturing your well-being. Protecting your peace begins with setting boundaries, prioritizing reflection, and embracing silence as a tool for personal rejuvenation. Setting boundaries is the first and most vital step in protecting your inner peace. In a society that often glorifies constant activity and self-sacrifice, saying no can feel difficult or even uncomfortable. But the truth is, boundaries are not only healthy, they are essential. They serve as the emotional and mental guardrails that protect us from being overextended, overworked, and overwhelmed. When we fail to set boundaries, we open ourselves to the demands and expectations of others, leaving little room for self-care or personal growth. By establishing boundaries, we create the space we need to focus on ourselves. This means recognizing when we need rest, when we need solitude, and when we need to step back from certain commitments or relationships. Boundaries allow us to prioritize our own well-being without feeling guilty for doing so. When we protect our peace through boundaries, we are better equipped to show up for others in a meaningful way because we've taken the time to nurture ourselves first.